Here is a city with a paradox baked into its bones. Stand on a rooftop in Kuala Lumpur and look at the skyline. It is, genuinely, one of the most dramatic skylines on Earth. The Petronas Twin Towers. The 678-metre Merdeka 118, now the second tallest building on the planet. Exchange 106. The TRX development. Tower after tower after tower, piercing the tropical sky. It looks like a city that is building its way to the future. It looks like ambition made of glass and steel. It looks, from up there, like everything is fine. Now come back down to street level. Walk through the old central business district. Start noticing the windows. Floor after floor of darkened glass. Floors with no lights on. Floors where the lobby directories are half empty. Floors where the sign says for lease and has said so for years. Walk a little further and you'll see a concrete skeleton looming above Jalan Pudu. Rusted rebar jutting into the sky, stagnant water pooling in the foundation, overgrowth pushing through the gaps. That's Plaza Rakyat. A project that was supposed to be a landmark mixed-use development. 79-story office tower, 46-story condominiums, a hotel, a shopping mall. Construction started in the 1990s. It stalled in 1998 during the Asian financial crisis. And here's the thing that should genuinely shock you. The construction site remains deserted as of 2025. That's 27 years. 27 years of revival announcements, failed developers, legal disputes, extension requests, and stagnant water in the foundation. Right in the heart of a city that just opened the world's second tallest building 3 kilometers away. That is Kuala Lumpur's contradiction in one aerial photograph. The new, soaring skyline and the 27-year skeleton sitting in its shadow. And that contradiction is exactly what this video is about. Let's start with the numbers, because the numbers are genuinely staggering. Kuala Lumpur has 109.86 million square feet of purpose-built office space as of the first half of 2025. Occupancy across the city stands at 72.2%. Do the math. That leaves approximately 30.51 million square feet of vacant office space sitting empty across the KL metropolitan area. Property experts put that number in perspective. 30 million square feet of empty offices is roughly 10 times the total floor area of the Merdeka 118 tower. 10 of the world's second tallest building, just sitting there, dark. In the older parts of the Kuala Lumpur CBD, vacancy sits at 19.4%. Cushman and Wakefield put the headline office vacancy rate for the market at 27.49% by mid-2025. Knight Frank's own figures placed prime office vacancy at 23.4%. These are not fringe numbers from contrarian analysts. These are the headline figures from the biggest real estate consultancies on Earth. More than 1 in 4 office spaces in this city is empty. And the problem isn't that there's no demand, it's that the demand has moved. Tenants are abandoning aging buildings and chasing the new, green-certified, ESG-compliant towers. That sounds like a market correction. Fine. Except here's the kicker. The city keeps adding supply. 8 new office buildings are still under construction as of mid-2025. More supply is being pumped into a market that already has 30 million square feet going dark. It is, as one analyst put it, a phenomenon of obsolescence oversupply. Not too much office space in general. Too much office space that nobody wants anymore. Around 70% of KL's office buildings were built before 2015 and now fail to meet modern standards for design, technology, or sustainability. So what happens to those buildings? In some cases, they get repurposed. Hotels, co-working spaces, adaptive reuse projects that actually work. In most cases, they get another for lease sign and another year of vacancy. Now let's talk about what this split personality skyline is actually telling you about how this city works. Because the Plaza Rakyat story isn't an anomaly, it's a pattern. While Merdeka 118 was funded entirely by Permadalan National Berhad, a government investment fund built with public money, its observation deck and mall won't even open until the second half of 2026. The building had its grand opening in January 2024. The hotel opened in August 2025. The shopping mall, as of now, is still a skeleton. Exchange 106, the 106-story tower in the TRX Financial District, was 52% occupied as of early 2025, and that was being framed as good news because it was expected to reach 70% by year-end. Let's be clear about what that means. The country's flagship financial development launched a 106-story tower and is celebrating reaching 70% occupancy. That means nearly a third of it is empty, and that's one of the success stories. Meanwhile, in older parts of the KLCBD, vacancy rates have dropped below 50% in some buildings. Some blocks are more empty than occupied. Researchers and urbanists have started using a specific phrase to describe what's happening to the old city centre: hollowing out. The Kuala Lumpur structure, Plan 2040, acknowledges it directly. Essential functions and residential populations have shifted to other areas. Activity in the city centre largely ceases after working hours, leaving only tourists and foreign workers. KL's old urban core is becoming a ghost town that gets dressed up for commuters between 9 and 5 and then empties out completely. Walk through the central business district on a weekend evening. The traffic lights are still cycling, the street lights are on, but the people have left. That's not a vibrant city. That's a city running on the inertia of commercial obligations. Here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't just an aesthetic problem or a real estate investment story. The physical infrastructure underneath all these towers is starting to show the strain of building up without building properly. On August 23, 2024, a woman named Vijayalakshmi Gali was walking on Jalan Masjid India, one of the most central, most trafficked streets in Kuala Lumpur, when the pavement beneath her feet collapsed. An 8-meter-deep sinkhole opened in the ground and swallowed her. She was never recovered. The authorities declared her legally dead on September 1st. 5 days later, a second sinkhole appeared 50 meters away on the same street. The investigation concluded that the cause was a combination of human activity, heavy rainfall, and the erosion of subsurface soil layers. In other words, the underground infrastructure had been quietly failing for a long time before the ground gave way. And this wasn't unique to Masjid India. Civil society group Save Kuala Lumpur told the press that Bangsar, Federal Hill and Brickfields had all been prone to sinkholes for decades, with incidents occurring in quick succession. Residents in sinkhole-prone areas demanded that Kuala Lumpur City Hall publish the city's underground mapping system. They wanted to know what was actually beneath their feet. The city still doesn't have a complete published map of its own underground infrastructure. In a city registering 1,000 new vehicles per day, building tower after tower, drilling, constructing, loading, and loading the ground further, nobody has a comprehensive picture of what's holding it all up. The sinkhole sentiment analysis was damning, 80% negative online reaction, with 23% of Malaysians expressing flat-out distrust that the government could handle the situation, and 18% saying they were afraid to visit KL at all. Business around Masjid India declined sharply. Tourists stayed away. A city that is trying to attract millions of visitors for Visit Malaysia 2026 had a street collapse and swallow someone in its most central shopping district and couldn't recover the victim. That is not a fringe infrastructure problem. That is a warning. But it's not just what's underground. Come back up to street level and try to actually walk anywhere in Kuala Lumpur. I mean really walk, not through a mall sky bridge, not through a hotel lobby, but walk the actual streets from point A to point B like a human being. What you'll find is a city that was comprehensively designed around the car and has barely begun to reckon with what that means for everyone inside it. Jalan Sultan Ismail has pavements swallowed by illegal parking. Pedestrian crossings are spaced so far apart that crossing a major intersection becomes a strategic exercise. There are intersections in KLCC, the premium financial and tourist core of the city, where pedestrians get a 15-second crossing window on a road with multiple lanes of fast-moving traffic. New developments like Bukit Bintang City Centre have beautiful interior landscaping and then footpaths that abruptly end at the edge of the property, forcing pedestrians into the road or back through the building. The MRT runs fairly well, but the last-mile problem, how do you actually get from the station to where you're going, is still largely unsolved. Researchers have documented that public transport's modal share actually declined from around 20% in 1997 to about 11% in 2017, even as the rail network expanded because the surrounding environment makes using transit actively unpleasant. So people drive. The city registers 1,000 new vehicles every day. Commuters spend 333 hours a year on the road. Emergency vehicles navigate gridlock, and the government has spent decades responding to traffic congestion primarily by adding more lanes, which, as every traffic engineer on Earth will tell you, induces more traffic and makes the congestion worse. It is a city that is built 678 meters into the sky and cannot safely walk its own streets. So here's the real question. Not whether Kuala Lumpur is about to literally collapse, it isn't, but whether it's about to collapse in the way that actually matters, as a functioning, livable, competitive urban environment. Because the data is telling a specific story. The city is bifurcating. There's a shiny new KL, TRX, Merdeka 118. The new Grade A towers, Bangsar South, KL Eco City, that is performing reasonably well and attracting tenants and investment. And then there's the old KL, the CBD, the Pudu Corridor, the aging blocks whose vacancy rates are approaching 50%, the 27-year concrete skeleton of Plaza Rakyat rotting in the middle of prime real estate that a leading urban commentator just called, in a February 2026 editorial, a national embarrassment. Not a planning challenge, an embarrassment. The gap between those two KLs is growing, not shrinking, and the ground underneath both of them has a drainage problem and a sinkhole problem and a mapping problem that nobody has fully solved. The city is building up while its foundations are being interrogated. First, stop adding office supply until the existing vacancy crisis is resolved. A moratorium on new commercial development in the CBD. Full stop until the city gets its vacancy rate below 15%. Second, the Plaza Rakyat site needs state intervention now. 30 years of waiting for private developers to unlock value has failed 9 times. Take the site back, build civic infrastructure, a cultural quarter, affordable housing, public green space, and give the people of KL a reason to be in their own city centre after dark. Third, mandate underground mapping transparency. Publish the subsurface infrastructure data. Every city that has experienced sinkhole crises has learned that transparency isn't optional. It's the baseline for public trust. Fourth, redesign new developments around people, not cars. Make it law that any new development receiving city permits must include continuous pedestrian infrastructure connecting to the nearest public transport node. No exceptions. No footpaths that end at the property line. Fifth, invest the money that keeps going into trophy towers, into the infrastructure that makes a city function. Drainage systems, underground utilities, last-mile transit connectivity, street-level public space. Here's the thing about Kuala Lumpur. It is not a city without assets. The food culture is extraordinary. The cultural diversity is real and rich. The geography is genuinely beautiful. The ambition, the actual ambition of a city that put up a building taller than anything in the Western Hemisphere except the Burj Khalifa is not nothing. But ambition without foundations is just a rendering. You can win the race to the sky and still lose the city. Plaza Rakyat has been in the ground for 27 years. The sinkhole on Masjid India opened without warning and never gave back what it took. 30 million square feet of office space sits dark in towers that were built at enormous cost and now stare out at each other across an emptying CBD. These are not unrelated problems. They are the same problem. A city that has prioritized the appearance of growth over the infrastructure of sustainability, the tallest building over the safest street, the landmark tower over the maintained drain. So tell me, if you've worked or lived in KL, if you've watched this city from the inside, what's it actually like on the ground right now? Because the rendering is one thing, the ground is another. Drop it in the comments. And if this kind of forensic look at cities that aren't getting honest coverage matters to you, you know what to do.